Represented by some of the folks that you see here today, and a few that could not be here. But in addition to us, the Urban League, the Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce, United Pastors for Social Empowerment, United North, the African American Bureau Association, African American Bureau of Commerce, excuse me, NAACP, Sister Moore, African American Parents Association, the Urban Coalition, Cherry Street Mission Ministries, and Toledo Area Ministries have been meeting, like I said, for a couple months with the goal of presenting a statement and also presenting ourselves to offer help to this district and recommendations to this district. And so we've devised this statement. I'm going to read that now, and at the end of that, we'll take a few questions and then be done. Toledo Public Schools sits at a crossroads of epic proportions. It is a clear watershed moment. Declining enrollment, underperforming schools in the central city, a bloated infrastructure, and dwindling state funding create a perfect storm for TPS and the entire community. The community spoke loudly on May 4th, 2010, and their message was clear. We expect leadership and accountability for this district. Our students deserve it, the community demands it, and the leadership of this district, board members, the superintendent, and union representation must deliver it. Without question, there are positive highlights within TPS, and to ignore them would be completely irresponsible on our part. While acknowledging the many positives, it is also appropriate to consider the grievances and the concerns. In doing so, one overarching issue is crystal clear, and that issue is trust. There is little or no trust between the board administration. There is no trust between management and labor. There are seeds of distrust within the ranks of labor. There is limited trust between parents and teachers, and there is clear evidence of distrust between students and teachers. The painstaking reality is that no one can effectively work with, teach to, learn from, or share with a person with whom they do not have some level of trust. Over the past decade or more, this community has shown its trust through the support of new and continued levies, often by significant margins. Our community now deserves a return on its investment and its past trust. We believe that now is the time for an in-depth and independent review of Toledo Public Schools. On several points, we agree with Board President Vasquez, specifically as it relates to the need for transformational change within this district. The independence and scope of this committee are areas we must have common agreement and are paramount in understanding the current state of education and operations with which to formulate recommendations needed to bring about that transformational change. Establishing trust is critical. This can only begin by assuring that the committee's review is objective, thorough, and leads recommendations aimed at that transformational change. We believe the committee must be officially chartered by the Board of Education. It must be autonomous and have no members which are board members or school employees. All operational, educational, and financial practices, including union contracts, must be included in the scope of the work. All employees and records must be made available to the committee for interview and inspection. All committee members must be free of financial or other relationships that pose a conflict of interest. The selection of members would be by a mutually agreed upon committee chair or chairs, with membership based upon experience and attributes that are compatible with the overall skill set that is needed by this committee. We offer our assistance, and I want to make sure that we're clear with that. We offer our assistance as a community on a continuous basis. This is not a one-time flash in the pan to address this mammoth task. Our goal is to avoid another panel producing another report that gathers dust on a shelf. Rather, we seek a fully engaged group that collaboratively confronts these issues with one goal: quality education for each child in the right environment. Meeting this goal will produce engaged, educated, and successful students that are prepared to meet the challenge of college, work, and life. We'll take any questions.
How many people would sit on this committee?
We're not sure if we've even developed a number for who needs to sit on the committee. We think that the number of who sits on the committee should be developed based on the skill sets that are necessary by the committee in order to do the work that it needs to do.
And what exactly would you be overseeing, I guess?
really
committee?
the entire review of this district, and I think that's what we stated in here, is really doing an independent review. There's been reviews done before, but this needs to be independent, it needs to be autonomous, because clearly there's some structural changes that need to happen. So this committee would have, hopefully, board chartered, and would have the ability and the autonomy and the authority to review everything
Finances
within
included?
the district, finances included.
What's your reaction to them finding out that they have $824,000 that they did not know that they had?
I think it speaks to the fact that we need this review.
John, what are some of the skill sets that you think are needed on this committee?
Clearly, and we've talked about this as a group, and we did not bring a list of those skill sets today, but I would indicate, clearly someone with strategic planning background, someone with financial expertise and experience, someone with governance background as far as it relates to how things need to be structured and operated, operational background, information technology. So there's probably some ways that we can come up with some new and innovative things to do based on the technology. Having an education background on this committee is going to be important. Just a few, and we've got a list that we've been working on to develop.
Chris, you think about the 7.8 mil levy coming in November. The Urban League came out against the main levy.
We do not have an opinion on that levy as a group. Each of us represent different organizations, and each one of our organizations are going to take that levy consideration through their own due process and make whatever decisions that they will make at that time. But as a group that we stand here today, our focus is on ensuring that we can help this district achieve the kind of transformational change that it seeks.
In your mind, does the work of this committee, when and if it gets up and running, is that connected to
Not at
your
all.
reaction to the levy?
Not at all.
Do you plan on having a similar statement, either for or against the November levy, like you did for the May levy?
I don't know what as an urban league, I don't know what we plan. As I said before, each of these individual groups, people that are representing their groups, they're going to take it through their own process and come up with their opinion at that time. Anyone else?
Any members of the other organizations want to speak or say anything?
I just want to say one thing about the levy without speaking for or against the levy. The concern is that they've talked about forming a committee, and they've had years to form committees, and they formed committees before. And with the levy coming up, we don't want the committee to be set up for the sole purpose of trying to get the levy passed, and the levy would pass, and then they won't take the recommendations of the committee. That's the key. So we want to make sure that this time, that if there's a committee appointed, that this committee not only is independent, but has the power to be able to make sure that those recommendations get implemented. Because as you know, board members are elected, and it still has to go in front of the 5 board members. So that's the concern. The concern is that this committee is being appointed at a time when the levy is coming up in November, and we don't want that to be tied together. We don't want that committee there to be just for the purpose of getting the levy passed.
Larry
So
Sykes
those
last-
two are, I want to be clear, the levy and what we're talking about today, they are totally disassociated.
We began meeting long before.
We met before, so this is not a discussion of
Larry Sykes last night called for an outside audit. He was
Heard that.
flabbergasted that there was $800,000+ and laying off all the crossing guards, et cetera, and they're doing this at the 11th hour. Are you all concerned about the safety of the students? And do you agree with an outside audit?
Clearly, we are concerned about the safety of the students. This group has discussed that as being an issue. What we wanted to do today, and that's why we want to stay focused on this, is to talk about the review that needs to be done independently and autonomously. It really ties in with what Larry mentioned. We didn't know he was going to say that clearly, but the whole idea and the concept is that this review is independent and that it leads to change. Doing a review that's going to sit on the shelf, as you see in the statement, doing a review and the results of that review sits on a shelf, which many others are, does not get us to change. And so, that's where we stand on that. As far as transportation, we're all concerned. I think I can say that collectively for every single person standing here and those that are with. We are really concerned